was at the supermarket with my friend. It was a Saturday, and we just played a game of netball. We were at the checkout, and we sneakily put 2 Kit Kat Chunkies behind the other groceries. My friend's mum turned to us and said, "A moment on your lips, but forever on your hips, don't forget that." I was 8 years old.
I remember when I was about 6 and we were at a family Christmas dinner. I vividly remember wanting to get some more like potatoes or something, and my grandmother mentioning that maybe I didn't need them because I was beginning to get a bit bigger. I realised that that was a problem and it was being brought to my attention in front of everyone, so I just stopped eating.
I was in the school newspaper in high school and we were editing a page and it had a picture of one of my teammates on it, and she was leaned back in this position just stretching, but she looked really lean, and one of my teachers said, "Oh, isn't that just the ideal body? Don't we all want to look like that?"
I went to the mall with my mom, and so we're just, having a great time. And the shop assistant, a really skinny girl wearing beautiful clothes, said to me, "Sorry, we don't have your size in our store."
The start of the snowball for me was when the All Blacks changed from loose shirts to tight shirts. I went, oh, when I put a tight top on, I do not look like that. And I went, and that's what I want to look like.
Every time my birthday wish, or if I saw a shooting star or whatever, when you make a wish, when you pull the chicken bones, every time I would wish to be skinny. Out of everything in the world, that's all I wanted.
I started to become obsessed with the back of people's legs. I just wanted to know what the back of myself looked like, so I'd always get my friends to take photos of the back of me to make sure that I looked okay.
I remember going home and just looking at myself and feeling really full and sick, and just writing in my notes on my phone, "Claudia, you have to be this many kgs by this date."
I pretty much just stopped eating as much as I could get away with and lost a whole heap of weight, and immediately was reinforced by everybody at school, even teachers and people just saying, "Wow, you look fantastic. Wow, you look great."
And then I started noticing that the weight was coming off more and more, and people were like, "Man, how are you doing this? You're so awesome." I said, "I'm just doing it. I'm just going hardcore."
I remember thinking, oh, I'm finally fitting in. For the first time in my life, I'm fitting in.
I would watch in-class dessert videos on YouTube and BuzzFeed and Instagram, and watching people eat dessert food would make me feel really good, because I knew that they were putting on weight and I wasn't.
I had been going to a dietitian for about 4 months, and she was trying to help me put on weight. At one point she looked at me and she was like, "You have an eating disorder and you have to stop dancing and stop exercising." At that point, I think I was just in denial, and I said, "I don't have an eating disorder." I remember just going out and crying and being like, "Mum, please don't take me back there, I'm not going back." And I didn't, but 8 months later I was in the clinic diagnosed with anorexia.
I grew up believing that emptiness was better than loneliness, that I would find a friend in my lifeless form, and that my hunger would leave me senseless enough to forget that I existed.
When I went to university, things got even worse because there was nobody there to watch me or know what I was doing from hour to hour.
I had been in a relationship since year 9, and he ended up breaking up with me because I was difficult to be around. I was very focused. All I cared about was exercising and being healthy.
My hair started to thin. Clumps were falling out because my body was under so much stress. And so I shaved it, and when I went back home and I was at about 89 kgs, people just thought I had cancer.
It got to the point where my skin started to turn orange in certain places from eating so many carrots and pumpkin I used to try to put concealer on my knees because of my school skirt because my knees were so orange and I didn't want anyone to notice.
When I was at my worst, yeah, it did feel like I had a phobia of food. So it was like someone had put a plate of spiders in front of me and they'd sit with me and they'd make me eat it. I was having to try and eat my fear.
And I'd have dreams of, just that I was fat and that I was huge and that pretty much the fattest person in the world. And I would wake up sweating and I'd grab myself and like pull my skin like as hard as I could to make sure that it wasn't, that I couldn't tell if I was dreaming still.
I would go to sleep at night and it would take quite a long time because I was really uncomfortable from my rib cage, like on the bed, and I could just feel my bones and it was just the worst. And then I'd go to sleep and like dream this amazing dream and I'd wake up and just wish I never woke up. Like that's how low I got.
It felt like I was living in a really dark box by myself. I screamed at them. I was like, help me, I need help. But no one will listen to me.
It felt like I was trapped in this cycle and I hated that it was a cycle so much. I just wanted to be still for a moment. Of course, I wanted the stillness to be in the small glimpse of happiness when I was thinner and when people cared about me more and when people were interested in me and people would tell me they were proud of me more than ever before. I just wanted to pause in that moment. I didn't ever want to move forward or move back, so I became terrified of the future and of the past.
Sometimes I think I'm a shell, unsure of whether I contain anything on the inside. Sometimes I feel so empty that it almost don't make sense. Other times I feel so full that I could burst, heavy, and wishing that my skin wouldn't hold me so tightly all of the time.
The first time I went to hospital, my mum and my dad told me it was just going to be a checkup and that I'd be home for the night. And then I get in and the doctor says that I have an eating disorder after asking me a few questions about how I feel. Next thing I know, the security guards were coming in and I was held down and the tube was put up my nose and I can't really remember anything else. I remember screaming and crying and I was just like so frightened, obviously, like what's happening to me? They weren't letting me out and I felt like I had no control.
One day, my fiance at the time, he was away and I was at home and thought I was just fine, so I had a few crackers. And then next thing you know, I've eaten the whole box of them. And so I go to the bathroom and start to vomit and almost choke. I was asphyxiating myself in the bathroom. I couldn't breathe for, it felt like a minute. It really hit me that what if I killed myself in the bathroom and then he had to come home and find that. I didn't want bulimia to be the way that my story ended. I couldn't let it take control of me that way.
And when you peel back everything that has ever made you doubt, question, or cry, you are left with the same realization. Most things are bullshit, but some things are beautiful. And what you choose to swallow, you choose to become.
The first time I told anyone about my eating disorder was my auntie, and she said that was okay. And that was the first time anyone had ever told me it was okay to not be okay.
My new therapist just helped me so much. She treated me like a person, whereas every other treatment I've been in, they'd treated me like anorexia. Like, they didn't talk to me. talk to my parents or they'd talk to anorexia, and it wasn't about how I felt.
I had to see food as medicine. And as soon as I kind of put that in my mindset, like this is like me taking my medication that I need to survive.
One thing that I do is I use mantras, and one of my favorite mantras is treat your body like it belongs to someone that you love, which makes you remember that you're supposed to love yourself.
I didn't have anything to recover for exactly. I wasn't a singer, I wasn't a dancer, I was just normal girl. And then I kept trying to recover. It's like you have to learn again and you're so behind. So it's not recovering that's hard, it's afterwards, which is just as hard.
For the first time in my life, I know what it's like to be happy and to see a future beyond the next 2 months. And I like it and I want to stay. I want to stay in a world where I'm more interested in what happens tomorrow than what size my jeans are.